Yeah, Rubik, not a hero that we saw extremely valued in the series where we saw two Sand Kings, but I still think everything stands. You're also playing versus an Abaddon. You're always going to take whatever he gives you. Not really too many bad spells to steal, but that is where all of the bans, or at least a majority of them, have been on that offline from four Zoomers, and they have really put Frank in a little bit of an awkward position here. I don't think we're going to see him go for the Timbersaw. That's just a little bit too awkward, I think. And of course, you're playing versus Sand King and Abaddon. That part would feel great, but I think the TA lane is honestly pretty horrible. And then you're not really putting that much threat onto Costa Bile. There is the Brewmaster if they want to go for it.
Oh,
Oh, they go Centaur.
that's a little that's a little more sort of baseline for them. I wanted to avoid using the phrase boring, but that does sort of apply to the Centaur. You know exactly what you're going to get out of him, but well, I mean, it could be useful because you look at the Four Zoomers lineup outside of the Sand King, there's really not a lot of hard lockdown for them to work with. So your Stampede, especially with a Bat Rider in the lineup to get in and out, is looking pretty good at the moment.
Yeah, and of course, it's a classic combo, right? You lasso, you stampede, you drag them 1,500 units away. It also is kind of a simultaneous initiation now that Lava are banking on, where they need to find the Abaddon, jump him, and jump another target with the lasso to really pull apart four Zoomers, because if four Zoomers just get to blob together, it's very difficult for Lava to actually deal with that. And I think that's where the Centaur, at the very least in his kit, he has the War Stomp. He has a little bit of AoE because the rest of the lineup is more or less single target. There really isn't that much control on a large scale. And four Zoomers pick Bane.
Okay. So between Bane and Abba, the Bane plays the 4, or is the Abba the one that you're putting in Z-Freak's hands here?
But yeah, that's
Hmm.
where I'm really scratching my head now because, well, if they get a Sand King Abaddon lane, we've seen melee heroes laning with the Abaddon, and to highlight Sacred, he's been the only Abaddon offline player in the entire tournament. But it's really hard to not think that this is going to be a Husky Bane. But it also feels wrong to then pair him up with the Abaddon. It's very, very strange that they've gone for this hero, actually. And the best lane that I think they could swing is it actually ends up being a Z-Freak Bane and then a Moo Sand King, and then Husky still plays 5 Abba, and then you still get that pairing with the TA, but why Bane? That's a very peculiar pick. I'm really wondering what the idea is here. Of course, Nightmare, you can praise it as much as you want, but you're also picking it into Rubik. So when it comes to getting your grip off, there's always that threat of it just simply getting stolen while you're channeling it out. And look at that.
Fun.
Somebody was watching Dubai. Hoodwink ban last phase. That's kind of crazy coming in from Lava.
Yeah, that's a hero that in these regions has really not seen a lot of attention, but yeah, the event in Dubai featured a pretty substantial amount of Hoodwink, so teams in some regions are starting to figure it out, and like I said, NA and SA teams have been sort of shying away from it, but that can change on a day-to-day basis. And here in your lower bracket final is not the time for Lava to test whether four Zoomers have been practicing it, especially considering of all the teams in the field to go for new heroes, four Zoomers is kind of at the top of that list. So they ban it away. They ban out the Kunkka as well. They'll grab themselves Kataros and Luna. And, well, that does really shore up some of the maybe damage issues Lava were looking at before, but this lineup is going to have to buy time for Kataro to build himself up first.
No, definitely. And hey, it's the stable safe laner versus these melee offliners. It really never has a bad lane. I hazard to say, as we'll have to see what Moo can actually do here, but I do think that's where Lava are pretty correct here. Hoodwink ban may be thrown out just because you're not really aware of what four Zoomers want to do just yet, but four Zoomers very clearly need another core. We're probably going to see either a Costa Bile or a Gunner hero. And hey, Ember's still available. I'm always going to bring up the Ember whenever I see it available, even though it's into the Bat Rider, but it just feels like whenever Gunner is on those very active heroes, he's just right at home. That's also where, unfortunately for him, there is a Bat Rider in his lane, so he's going to have a little bit more mana to play with, but there is always that threat of Leo style kind of turning the matchup on its head against you. If it was a previous patch, then I would almost surely say that we would see Gunner picking up the Brewmaster versus the Bat Rider, because that was his answer for the longest time versus the Bat Rider mid, just because I think Cinderbrew's damage was a little bit tweaked up in that patch, but as soon as everything got nerfed down, it didn't feel like the strongest solution. Aside from that, though, if they want to switch it maybe into Costabile's hands, I think they would have loved the Morphling after seeing the Luna picked up, but that's where this ban kind of hurts a little bit them instead. And I do feel like we're going to want Costabile versus the Centaur because that lane feels pretty free, but no, it's going to be a TA mid. A
Hmm.
TA mid versus the Batrider. They're leaning hard into that matchup, and now it's going to be a Costabile CK. That lane's fine, but mid, that's a very scary lane. Gunner's going to need to pull out all the tricks.
And it looks like in terms of the support duo, it is going to be Husky on the 5 app as Z-Freak will play the Bane. So, well, 4 Zoomers kind of throw us for a loop a little bit here, ET. Not necessarily what we were expecting, not just with the support duo, but now, as you said, sending the TA into the middle lane. Do you think maybe there's a possibility they have Gunner play the TA, Kasable the Chaos Knight, but just swap their actual lane setups, or is this just going to be straightforward from them?
Honestly, I think with 4 Zoomers, they're known for their lane setups. They're known for getting their early on advantage because they make usually the correct decision before their opponents. But I think this is probably just going to be Gunner sitting in his lane. And I think that's very scary. That's a very scary proposition. And not saying that Costa be like can't do it. He can certainly go mid and lane versus Leo style and feel a little bit miserable. But I think that's where maybe they feel like they can go for the TA versus Batrider mid because Husky might be freed up now because Costabile is on a tankier safe laner that if you ever do feel like your TA is going to get dove, you can just TP the Abaddon and then you're not too afraid of the matchup. But it feels like maybe a little bit of hubris to lean into it, I'll be honest, because I do like the TA and a whole as the game goes on versus the Batrider, but it's just that laning stage that I'm really terrified for him, as well as he's lane versus Leo style. That is a very strong laner, TI caliber laner who was solo-killing people at the major he was at pretty much off cooldown and then barely not making playoffs. So I am certainly concerned, I want to say, for him. But I do think, yeah, he's got the stick. Or rather, the magic wand. Gunner's just going to go mid. And, well, we'll see if Leostar can pull the wool over his eyes or... Actually, we need our Luna back.
Yeah,
That was weird.
they just actually sent him to his lane while they waited for him to reconnect, which, I mean, fair enough. If you weren't planning to bring him to any sort of early engagement, then just send him down there. Don't really need to dig into your pause time, but a little bit strange. Either way, though, we're gonna get this one underway, and we'll see if there is actually a fight here. Frank's just doing his best to be sneaky. I don't know how this actually works, because this is like a 10-foot tall centaur hiding behind one tree, but 4 Zoomers might not see him. I don't really know if this is going to turn into much of anything for them. If 4 Zoomers come in force to take that rune, I think Frank and Kim might just have to back off.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a rather peaceful start here. But yeah, you are right. It's the Fog of War, and they are all underneath the Lava Ward right now, so if they're not too careful, and they do
We'll
actually
see.
spot it out, yeah, might rotate Cat U over. He's the only one with a sentry, but they're actually clashing on both rune spots, and well, Mu got bullied away, but okay. Little bit of action, but most importantly, Lava, yeah, they know about the word. Cat U actually goes a little bit early, though. Oh, this is awkward now.
Yeah. And now 4 Zoomers are the ones who are going to be able to deward at this point if they want to use the sentry, and yeah, they do. So, well, like you said, Cat U goes just maybe a little bit too early, assuming that Gunner wasn't actually going to be in position yet, but unfortunate assumption to make there. It is an incorrect one. It costs him his ward, but overall, I don't think that's going to be too killer here. Cat U TPs himself down bot, and where is the Bane? He is, there we go, taking a trip down to the lane here. So, a little bit of a delay for that support, but that does mean Moo's going to get a little bit of solo experience for the first maybe wave and a half.
Yeah, shouldn't be underneath too much pressure here, but that's where I do really wonder what the idea is with this Bane. I want to see Z-Freak has something more than just the Bane for them to pick it up here, because it does feel like a rather out of left field. Maybe it's just because they know that the Ogre Magi is very difficult here to trade up against. If Bane ends up being the solution to the Ogre, that'd be pretty funny, but I also think that maybe it's a little bit of a reach. I don't know. We'll have to see. I want it to work out so deeply, but it's where the Dota side of me is also wondering if it's going to be enough. And you are putting one of your best playmakers kind of on the side with the Bane. Doesn't have really the biggest playmaking potential outside of some nightmare dodges. It's a very cut and dry hero.
The heart says yes, but the brain says, yeah, I don't know about that. But we'll see. If anyone can sort of show us something new on this Bane, Z-Freak would probably be the guy. So keep an eye on that moving forward. Also keeping an eye on mid, where Gunnar, he is taking a hell of a lot of damage here. No points in the refraction. I think Leo Styles just got him. He's going to pop the wand, but that should not be... Oh, it is enough. Just barely. As Gunnar turns around with the second point in the meld. He does die immediately afterwards, but he gets the first blood. Leo Style... Well, at that point, you're committed. You've got to just go all in for it, but it will cost him his life.
No, it cost him his life. It cost him, well, a chunk of XP, and now Gunnar buys Boots of Speed and returns to the lane. So that's a pretty massive win, honestly, for Gunnar. And we all knew that Gunnar was going to do this, at least in some capacity, but it's now a matter of whether or not he can get his level 6 before Leo Style, because once those traps are down, it's where the map shrinks a little bit for him. Not to mention that Leo Style has to kind of work for his creeps. He has to use his mana to get last hits, where Gunnar is just going to continuously push the wave in. And Gunnar actually has 2 points in meld. So he is kind of sitting here wanting to get, I think, these creeps a little bit pushed into Leo Style's lane. And then when he meld strikes him, honestly, maybe it stood a little bit too far forward there. I think he needs a TP from Husky, but it might TP. Yeah.
Yeah, and he got that second point in the meld so that he could make that turnaround play the last time with the extra damage. This time, though, Leo Style starts that fight with a lot more HP. And now, Husky, you gotta be careful. The flame break is up. Leo Style's not going to commit for it without the Firefly to follow it, but... Oh, actually, I say that. If Husky keeps on taking stacks here, Leo Style might just go for it.
Yeah, and he does have the Aphotic Shield, you know, but it is a lot of damage. Yep, he just uses it after the Flame Break flies, but it's also where now Costabile is very obviously left alone in the top lane. I think that's why he goes for the Helm of Iron Will instead of the Boots Rush that we've seen some Chaos Knights and Wraith Kings go for, just because he really is going to be on his loathsome for a little bit here. But it's also where having 6 armor, getting hit up by a Rubik, not really going to matter all too much.
Yeah, that is always the downside of this Rubik. You can make some nice plays with your nuke damage with the telekinesis, but when you don't commit those spells, you don't really hit that hard. But in the meantime, that does freak him up to maybe wreak some havoc here in the jungle, although with Husky coming back, maybe that window closes just a little bit. But that would be where they would want to make some moves here, especially considering the TA might start looking for some stacks in the jungle as well if Gunnar's trying to supplement that farm. So if the Rubik can shut that down, Gunnar's not going to have that easy sort of safety valve if he does get pushed out of the middle lane.
Yeah, and it's also where I think having this large camp blocked up is a relatively big problem for Lava because, well, they can just kind of do this. And without the wave pushing into Frank, it feels like he's going to get contested maybe a little bit more than he otherwise would like. But it's also where it's a little bit awkward for Husky to do his own job because, well, he's a melee 5. He's got the Mist Coil. He can go for double stacks, but nothing is really guaranteed, as we sometimes see when you get those stackers and those heavy stackers. But instead, we'll have to see how he decides to make the difference, because certainly it is going to be a little bit of a slower start for that TA. But otherwise, I think everybody's a little bit too tanky to actually die in these lanes at this point.
Yes, up top, neither Frank nor Kasabe is going to really be in that big of trouble. Middle lane, we have seen some action, obviously. That's always going to be the exception. But down bot, I don't really see much happening here. Then this is kind of the downside of this Bane. He is getting multiple points up into the brain sap, so he does have some nuke damage, but I don't really think he and Moo can do a whole lot. Onto Guitarra or Katyu for that matter, because this is still an Ogre. Unbelievably tanky here as he's just trying to bully Z-Freak up a little bit in the jungle, gets eyes on some of these early stacks. And Z-Freak doesn't even care that Katyu's here. He's just going to go for the stack again, and he should get it.
Yeah, and I guess that's where Z-Freak can certainly do his job. And yeah, maybe it's just a hero to play versus the Ogre, as I kind of initially suspected, but it certainly feels a little bit strange. But now, speaking of the mid lane, Gunnar is out of the danger zone, I want to say here. Still needs to be very careful about knockback plays with the Flame Break like that, but with all the support he's got, well, he's going to feel pretty safe here. Not to mention, as long as they maintain sentry control in the mid lane, it's pretty much impossible for Leo Style to dive whenever there are these traps placed. It's relatively impossible. And even so, it might be a turn on the Leo style if he gets a little bit too far ahead of himself, but he almost has boots of travel. He is very fond of this Bat Rider.
He's going to get those pretty damn fast. Meanwhile, in the jungles, freaking Husky putting Katyu to sleep to snag themselves a rune, but unfortunately for 4Zoomers, this is the only movement that we're really seeing out of these supports. They're being annoying, they're taking some runes, you again have Z-Freak stacking up in the jungle, but aggression's really not going to be the name of the game for them for quite some time. So, well, it's not really a whole lot of potential plays to be made there. Meanwhile, down bot, Moo, well, he's just enjoying the solo lane. He's hit level 6, so that epicenter threat is online, and maybe now, if they can get that epi really in for its full duration, you have a little bit more kill potential onto someone like the Luna, as Husky has the cutoff angle here, but here comes Leosal TPing. Husky really doesn't want to be here any longer, but the Lucent Beam is going to lock him down. They get the Fire Blast in here as well. Leosal doesn't even really need to show up at this point. Husky will be going down. Can they get any more? Leosal trying to move into Flame Break range. Does get the knockback onto Z-Freak. There's the Nightmare, though, and yeah, that may just put a stop to this. Leosal is going to get the Nightmare removed, but he's too far away now.
Yeah, not a bad timing, and well, Willow does stumble on the stack a little bit, but he doesn't have enough Firefly duration to actually kill off the big creep, so kind of buttered up for Gunner to just take it. But yeah, this is the trap slow, and if he gets hit by the next one, it's why he's jukes it out. That's a really nice path from Leo style. Very aware of where these traps are actually laid. If he made that mistake, he almost certainly would have died.
Nifty play from your Bad Rider, and, well, like you said, you didn't quite get the big ones, left a couple of them behind. I think the Flame Break might have finished off one or two, so you don't get the full stack, but you take even a slight bit of it. That is going to hurt the Templar Assassin, especially considering, as you see Leo style falling back into the west side jungle, Kim had been stacking up his own camps on this side, so take a little away from the TA, go back to your own side, farm all of your camps, and get a lasso on the Husky, pull him up to the high ground, no TP available for 35. Oh, yeah, that sucks for Husky. He's just going to get taken down there. Just unfortunate, really. Leo style, I don't even think they had full vision. He's just taking the camp. He uses the Firefly to get a little bit further to the north and then spots him out.
Yeah, and this is where the Bat Rider starts to get a little bit scary. He almost has one component of what I can only imagine is going to be the BKB rush, and this is the mistake that I think a lot of Bat Riders fall into. They try to get a little too active, they eat one or two early deaths, and then their timings just get messed up, but that's where Leo style is really only going for plays that are netting him kills, and he's taking it very slow, but it also means that he's just incredibly farmed for this stage of the game, and after this Ancient stack, probably going to be the top net worth in the game.
Now, may just very well pass up the top spot, which is held by a teammate. So, not really sure the lava's going to be broken up over that, because Kitaro, he has been laning incredibly well. And this is, again, another downside. Moo and Z-Freak on Sand King and Bane. Where's the pressure? Where's the slowdown on this Luna's farm? They really just can't do much right now. So, Kitaro's just going to sort of farm away. He's already got the Dragon Lance. Yasha coming up next as well. Have to assume we'd see the push towards a BKB soon after that, but you're talking about Kitaro hitting those first three sort of big items maybe 3-20 minutes if he can keep up this kind of rate. So, Warzoomers are going to have to be careful. You can have lava coming at you with multiple BKB cores at a time when your own heroes are not necessarily going to be able to match up against that. As Frank, okay, bit of a scouting mission here. We're all just going to stare at each other for a little while because nobody wants to fight, but there's really not a fight to be had. Husky's just looking for intel, but now, well, Frank knows. If there's two heroes farming in the jungle, this tier 1 tower is not fully protected. We're just going to try and get some hits in onto it. He's got maxed out Retaliate as well, so that tower is just chunking itself down with the shots.
Yeah, and that's where 4Zoomers, they kind of have to uproot Moo a little bit. They gave the bottom lane to Z-Freak, so he can get his level 6 there, but it's also where the Centaur, you know, talk about his strengths in previous patches. He's still the same hero. I think that's why he's not really picked as much, because he is a very similar hero, as Moo gets the deny. Pretty nice there, but it's where you can very easily just get on top of these towers. You force the trade, more or less, in a very similar way to, I want to say, Timbersaw, but it's where he's even better at the tower push. A little bit less pure damage, but has his own strengths, and, well, Leo style just stuck around a little bit too long in the bottom lane on Z-Freak, and that's a very easy punish. And again, Leo style finds the right play on the map to get him even more farm.
Yeah, like, he gets the Flame Break perfectly timed out, so the Bane did try to turn around and go for the Nightmare, but obviously couldn't get it down in time. And even the nice little play from Cadyu there. It's only a level 1 Bloodlust, but just that little bit of extra move speed helping to make the difference as they get that play. But now Frank on the other side of the map, getting hit up a little bit here. He has to use the Stampede. That means Moo misses with the Burrow, but he's still going to channel out the Epi. This should be enough damage for the kill. Frank is... well, he's durable, but he doesn't really do much against magic damage with the Vanguard and the Bracer build. So, 4 Zoomers will get their kill. Stampede used. Kataro, there was a brief moment there, ET, where I thought maybe with the point in the Eclipse he might try to turn that fight, but that would still be a 2v4 with a Centaur on basically no HP. So, they decide against it. And meanwhile, in the east side jungle, Kim was trying to do some warding, and he gets punished for it.
Nope, certainly does, and it's also just Gunnar being very patient. He actually lets both the Batrider and the Rubik walk over him with the meld, and they got a good mid. Z-Freak.
He's trying to get
very
in here.
Good.
There's nothing he can do. Wow. Okay. Z-Freak just gets a freebie. Now, Frank, I don't think you want to go for that. He's going to get hit up by the Burrow Strike. Now, can they lock him down long enough? That trap comes in for the slow. Moo's doing some nice work on the body blocks. That forces Frank to use his own hoof stomp. And look at the mass TPs coming in. By the time they get here, though, Frank may still die. Gunnar's going to take him down. And this is just too late. Kataro's going to try and make it happen anyway with the Eclipse. They could get Z-Freak, but that is a price that 4 Zoomers are more than willing to pay. You lose your position 4 support for 2 core kills. And Gunnar's now starting to look a little bit dangerous. 4 and 2 all of a sudden. Deso completed. He's got the BKB as well as the Blink Dagger queued up. So really jumping up there, moving into second in terms of the net worth and really leaving that Batrider behind.
Yeah, and it's also where on the mid TA, and what some teams have decided is very simply when you pick at mid, you just go Dragonlance into the Blink. But with how farmed Gunnar has been and with the Z-Freak stacking up for him, if he has the Deso first, he has the more farm-oriented timing, and it feels like it's not really going to set him back pretty much at all. And he actually might even move past the Blink, because I just saw him buy actually the Ogre Axe, which could still be a Dragonlance. We'll have to see how he decides to build it up, but that's where I guess Gunnar might see himself more as just the raw damage that he needs to be for his team to actually get a lot of these kills. And I think that's where, until we maybe see plate mails built up on the lava cores, they're certainly killable. This Deso is a very fearsome timing, and that's also where you can talk about Kataro a little bit. He's going for the Manta buildup. He's doing the Kataro style of this Luna, where he's not going to have his BKB for a very long time. No Moo, that's your Blink reveal. Perfect.
Blink Burrow into Epi. Kim taken down. Cat, you should be falling here as well as Moo picks up the double. And, well, as you said, that's the Blink reveal. They know now, but it's a little bit too late to save their buddies. Kataro, at least, very far away from that fight, and as you said, going for the Manta buildup, but going for this Manta build now, how prepared is Kataro going to be for some of these fights? We were talking if he and the Batrider were sort of getting their BKBs up at around the same time, then you have a pretty impressive timing to force your way into fights. If that BKB is a Manta instead, does Kataro feel as comfortable pushing in?
Yeah, it's where Lava needs to hit this incredibly important timing, which is the BKB Manta and then Blink Dagger finished up on Frank. And they'll probably look to make a play with the Blink reveal, but it's also where finding their way onto the right target is just as important. They would love to find Gunnar farming in his own jungle, but that's where Husky has adopted the playstyle he's done in pretty much the rest of the tournament, where he's just waiting to be in between pretty much everyone. He's in a very annoying spot until Lava uproot him. He's just going to stick around here. He's making so much space for his teammates who are farming the bot lane, farming the triangle, and that's also where 4 Zoomers, they're the team that can force Lava into the pit. Lava can't really ever have the damage to force that Roshan fight to happen, which means 4 Zoomers can just stay bottom. There isn't that forcing moving push, and I think that's where Lava might struggle to find some of their opportunities.
Well, Leo style, gotta be a little bit careful here. Quite a few heroes maneuvering into position just in case they want to go for him, but it looks like starting to see that attention shift. Moo, he's looking towards the middle lane. He's being pinged out the whole time, though, because he's standing pretty much directly on top of a ward, so Moo is not as sneaky as he thinks he is, unfortunately. You'll see him move away now. And meanwhile, Kataro, Manta style is completed, so he does have that. He's going to be able to push and farm that a little bit easier, and now the BKB will be coming out. But over in the middle lane, Moo actually opted to go in. That is a solo play on the Cadyu, so they get the kill, but the cost, yeah, that's going to be too high. Kataro TP's in for the kill. Stampede does have to be committed, but you make that a very beneficial 1-for-1, and well, the Luna was the one who got in for the kill, so the progress towards that BKB takes a little extra bump forward.
Yeah, and it's also where, unfortunately, when Four Zoomers aren't the team going forward, you're seeing their cores being forced to step on each other's toes just a little bit. Costabile can't live in the triangle, so he has to take pretty much all the farm elsewhere. And yeah, I thought the Luna Courier scouted the Bane in the trees, but it's also where I think on the opposing side, Lava have just a little bit more balance. They're very they do a lot more with less net worth, and I think that's where Four Zoomers they might need to farm just a little bit more than their opponents here, while all of that farm is more or less being directed onto the Luna. On the Lava side, it's a little bit of a concern here, especially because Four Zoomers are adopting to stay away from the pit until they have this double BKB timing on both their cores. Then they'll probably try to force a fight, but until then, it's very difficult for them to actually make plays here. It's a problem of the TA being in your mid lane. You don't really have that easy playmaker, and whenever Moo and Z-Freak aren't finding kills that are kind of falling into their lap, well, there isn't a play for Four Zoomers to make. They're kind of just at the whim of Lava.
Good news, though, is that the 2 main BKBs have been completed. Gunner's getting the last piece brought out to him, and we saw Costabile get his delivered out just a moment ago. So now might be the time to go. How long for Epi? 15 seconds. So don't have to wait too long before they could group up and make a play. The problem is their opponents are going to go after this exact play first. 4-man smoke out from Lava. Leo style going to sort of lead here, maybe act as the bait. But, well, who takes that bait? That is the question. Four Zoomers, if they see a Bat Rider there alone, that would be a nice target, but why would why would Leo style be standing there alone for, you know, no reason? But they're still grouping up, looking for something. The Stampede is going to be used. They're going to be able to get quickly onto Z-Freak. So they take out the threat of the Fiend's Grip. Leo style, meanwhile, did get pulled in, but he's going to be able to pop the BKB. Now he'll back himself away. Frank going in, looking for the stun. Only gets onto one, though, considering the BKBs come out, but now the lasso is going to pull Gunner away from his teammates to get him up onto the high ground. Moo, though, does finally manage to channel out that BKB, but now in comes Guitarro, popping the Eclipse, looking for the kills. Not going to be able to take Costabile out just yet, but at least they got Moo, but now they need to run. Kim is going to lift himself up onto the high ground, looking for the TP home. Oh, wait. I think Costabile might have just saved his life.
Oh my goodness.
He had the projectile in the air, then pulled him with the rift. The projectile changes directions, and I think that gives Kim the time to complete the TP.
Yeah, it's very funky, and I think the same thing happened whenever he tried to go for the chain stun onto Leo style, where he pulled him almost out of the stun, so he got the BKB off, which is the entire reason that that fight's blown open a little bit for Lava, and they get to survive as long as they do, but it's still heavy exchange. Katara was able to walk out. Nobody really lost a core, so it's not the worst timing in the entire world, but that's also where this is the advantage that Katara can kind of work a little bit. He's the only core without a BKB, meaning that when he gets his, it's going to be longer than Four Zoomers. If they can get those early BKB timings out, it's where we still have this problem with the TA where post BKB, unless you are running at your opponents, you really need to be very careful. And I think Husky's Cliff, well, he's gonna fight for this ward, though.
Does manage to take it down, and there's no immediate punish onto him, so he'll just TP himself over to the outpost. Nifty play from Lava, not going to really matter much, but now here's where things get interesting. The second they get Husky down from that cliff, 5-man smoke. They're looking for the fight. BKBs both back up, so they know they have an opportunity here, but Leo style TPing in could ruin everything. He's going to get onto the tower. Moo, where is that going? He's not going to be able to hit onto anything. That is a whiffed ult. Stampede now is going to come through, and here comes the reinforcements. Kim using the stolen Burrow Strike, getting in there. They get the lift onto the Templar Assassin as well. Katyu, though, does get taken down. Where is their damage? Guitarro trying to push in. No Eclipse for 25, though, so he's just doing it with the right clicks and the Lucent Beams, and they're not actually going to be able to lock anyone down, so, well, Lava, I guess, technically speaking, you'd say you have to say they lose that fight because they lose the only hero, but a Stampede gets used, and realistically speaking, that's kind of it. So you keep the casualties low. Meanwhile, Epicenter gets whiffed, and Four Zoomers, they're going to still try and go for the Roche Pit, and I think they get it, but they were hoping for a more definitive fight.
Yeah, and I think that's where Moo can't really harbor on him too hard because it is a blind jump, and he does still get the BKB out of Leo style, and really, that's all that matters, because now the Batrider doesn't have confidence to stick around. They get their first Aegis, and we always talk about how important that first Aegis is for the TA. That's the next 6,000 net worth, more or less, in Gunner's pocket, unless he loses it really quickly. But that's where they're playing on the high ground again, and this is a very nice kill.
Well, they don't have it just yet. Actually, there we go. Moo will be taken down. Frank, though, traded out. And now your Luna is caught. Is anyone going to help on this? Not really. The Fiend's Grip goes its full duration. Costabile just gets in there for the kill, and that play doesn't work anymore if you have to sacrifice the Luna to do it. They get the kill onto Moo, but the supports have to run, and, well, Katyu, I'm not sure he's going to make it out. Costabile gets the Reality Rift onto him. There's going to be the Bolt, and, yeah, they will find themselves another kill. So, you lose Frank, you lose Kataro, you lose Katyu, you get one kill onto Moo. I'm honestly a little bit surprised, actually, that they don't go in just with the Eclipse. You were trying to maybe be efficient there with that first kill, but because of it, there's an opportunity for Z-Freak to get in and pop the ult.
Yeah, and there was always going to be revenge, whether it was going to be from Gunner or another core TPing in from 4Zoomers, but it really shows how obnoxious playing versus this TA is. Gunner really is denying a lot of these areas of the map away from Lava, and that's unfortunately the second time that I think Kataro has shown up to a fight after picking up his BKB, where really he pops it, doesn't get a lot done, gets forced out of his farming rhythm, and then it doesn't really get anything in its stead, and I think that's where Lava... They finally have a Blink Dagger picked up on the Bat Rider. Leostyle can look to start the fight with himself, but this is the third smoke they've used in the past 5 minutes, and this is exactly what Lava like to do. They don't like using early pre-10-minute smokes or even 15-minute smokes. They like to save them all for after the 20-minute mark to try and stomp all over the mid-game, but if they whiff again, 4Zoomers are in a really safe spot, and with how long this wrap is taking, if they end up going back into these TA traps, it's going to feel nearly impossible for them to initiate. They're going to go for it, though.
Okay. They get the jump in onto the Sand King. They need to take Moo down quickly. They will be able to do so, but Costabile was able to get off the ult, so they're going to try and fight back here. They've taken down Kim. Immediate buyback coming out now from the Rubik, but now the Eclipse comes into play. They know they burned through a lot of Costabile's health. They are going to be able to take him down, but they still need to deal with Gunner on the backline. He is dropping low, but he's got the Aegis to work with. So he's going to be coming back up. The question is, what can Husky and Z-Freak do to save him? Because that is the only backup this TA has, and the answer is absolutely nothing. They cancel out that blink immediately. They will take him down. They'll take Husky as well. Z-Freak's going to be the lone survivor, and ET, they cut it real close there on the timer with the smoke, but they get really everything that they wanted. It's just the supports who die and buy back.
Yeah, and that's where I think Kataro saving his Eclipse as long as he did, it just means that all of that damage ends up bleeding into the CK, and they also swing their supports buybacks in their favor. There were 7 bodies in that fight, and of course you lose the Rubik after the fact, so rip his game, I suppose, but everyone else is very pleased with that exchange. Now Gunner has to play pretty much entirely differently now because he doesn't have that Aegis. His timing really got messed up, and I think if 4Zoomers were maybe a little bit more aware of the Lava positioning, then they just would have kited up a little bit more towards that triangle, because they surely had all of the control in the world. And Lava, actually, they need to pick up a gem. I think on Frank, on maybe even Katyu, because these traps are still a very big threat. And if 4Zoomers want to, they could just smoke right back into this area, because they see every hero coming in and out. But that's a problem for another day, I guess, if you're Lava. But I think 4Zoomers... timing is going to change a little bit. Costabile is going to want to finish up his Scotty. They could look for an immediate revenge smoke, but if they go for that, it's a little bit of a risk here. You're playing into basically everything on Lava. All their cooldowns are basically reset aside from the Eclipse, but give it a few moments and it's going to be back as well, and then you are still breaching into the triangle. You've got this trap control, but there's still that risk of just immediately dying, and Katyu's finally going to get to work on some of these.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, they do need to take away those traps, but I think step 1 for Lava was prove we can win a fight. Once we win that fight, now we can start worrying about sort of de-warding and taking some of these traps off of the map. But now they need to be worried about this. The smoke does come. It's a full 5-man from 4Zoomers. They're going to push their way into the west side jungle. Good news for Lava is that they're already starting to back away from this area, so no immediate threat, but... how much further do 4Zoomers want to go, and what path do they take into the jungle? Because there is still an opportunity for them to run into some high-value targets. They need to be able to catch up. Frank looking like the closest one now. Would not be an easy kill, especially with the Stampede up, but they could try for it. But at this point, they're starting to run out of time, and do they go for a second smoke here? Husky is holding another one. They're still kind of hanging out in the area like they're thinking about it, but on the other side of things, you see Lava with a similar group up, but I don't know if... Yeah, I don't think they have excuse me, a smoke. They may have used all of them at this point. But in the meantime, they continue to farm. Kataro finished off a full butterfly, and MKBs on the other side have been started by Gunnar. Stable really not going to care too much about building one up himself, but until Gunnar completes that, all of a sudden your Luna is not quite untouchable, but pretty damn close, ET.
Yeah, and I think that's where Four Zoomers, they just stopped showing on the map a little bit too hard. It was a full 5-man smoke. It's not like anybody were on eyes, and at the same time, they also cut the mid wave because they know they need to get this creep wave under control, but it's also the blessing of the Manta style from Kataro, where you get to send the Manta illusions into a wave. You don't have to be too afraid, and you get this split push going, and now Four Zoomers, they are playing in 2 waves. They did give the black, or the glyph back to the Radiant, so now it is going to feel a little bit more difficult to push into, especially because Guitaro's up on the high ground, and as we always speak about with this Luna, as soon as you get that tier 3, it is so difficult to defend the racks after the fact, and I think that's where the call has to be retreat, but now this opens up Lava to a pretty brutal smoke to cut through the entire map.
Well, doesn't look like they're actually going to go for the smoke play at the moment, but they are making their way back over because... Well, they managed to force out the maneuver from Four Zoomers. They have to bring 4 heroes back into base, really, just to make sure that Lava weren't going to go for that push a second time. So, it's a nice forcing play. You got the tier 2, you got nice damage onto the tier 3 with no risk to your Luna in the slightest. Only downside for Lava is that now they can't really go into the Roche pit. It's still a minute before the fastest possible respawn, so... There is your benefit for Four Zoomers. Their ability to take that first Roshan means that Lava don't have a whole lot to do here other than just wait and see if someone comes to them. They are being very patient, perhaps overly so, but if someone like Gunnar or Costabile actually walks up the ramp, that would be a massive start to the fight, but that play's just not going to develop the way they wanted it to. Just faking out the ult. That always makes me nervous, man. I don't know about you. Every time the epicenter gets channeled out, it is incredibly hard to actually miss the cancel, but I don't know. Seen it once or twice, and you feel so horrible when it does happen.
No, it's very scary, especially if it's you see him channeling it. You know he can cancel it at any time, but you still have to respect him like he's going to jump you. But that's also where this is a very tight line, and they actually found the Nightmare, but yeah, had the Manta illusion already. I don't know if this is the play.
Fiend's grip, but not for very long. Yeah, Seafreak's dead. Gunnar is right into the middle of that fight. Stable though wants to keep going. They're in onto Frank, trying to take the Centaur down, but now that Kataro's pushing in with the Eclipse, not really doing damage to a singular target though. Those Lucent Beams are just getting really deflected, but Mu gets hit up by a stolen Fiend's Grip. They'll lock him down. Now they can turn their attention onto the CK, but Costabile will fall as well. And look at Kim actually lifting Kataro up to push him further into the fight. They've got Z-Freak completely alone. They'll finish him off. And Lava take that one. Yeah, that initiation ET, a little bit awkward. Fiend's Grip onto Luna is nice, but you go so far forward to get that Fiend's Grip that he's almost instantly killed.
Yeah, and at the same time, I am amazed that Gunnar was somehow able to find an exit to that fight, because that was more or less a TA blinking into 3 or 4 heroes there, and I think even though he gets out, Mu is the one who ends up taking the brunt of the damage, and, well, if you're Lava, you know they used Glyph. They know that Roche is alive. I saw one of their heroes scouted out, I think it was the Rubik, and, well, this might just be 2 racks. And,
yeah, they can swing bots still.
Okay, this is also very smart. They're saying, okay, timer-wise, if we go for bottom ranks, you're going to fight us there, so instead we're going to rush you towards the pit. And 4 Zoomers are going to be rushed. They have to come pretty much right now. And Lava, are they able to take the follow-up fight, though? That's the question. They're going to have the Stampede up in 15 seconds. They won't have the Eclipse unless they wait a little bit longer here, but this is surely a little bit of a gamble, and they are still getting scouted out by these traps, still waiting for the gem to be picked up. Kim does have it queued, but that's where 4 Zoomers, all they need is a clean initiation. All they need is to find Katara before the BKB or the Bat Rider, and then suddenly this looks a lot easier, but that's also a full Satanic Katara was just able to pick up. So this is a very tanky Luna now, and with a very high turn potential. If you don't kill her the first time, she's going to come back and Costabile.
Oh, that is too far. He's going to get hit up. BKB not coming out just yet, but now the lasso is going to pull him back in. Mu, though, nice covering play, but Kataro, there's that Satanic. He's just going to start healing himself up. Cristabile taken down. Gunner dropping low. Gunner not dead yet, but they'll finish him off momentarily, and Mu gets wiped out as well. All 3 cores dead in one fell swoop. And at this point, Roche really no longer matters. Lava could just go straight into the base. Buybacks extremely limited on the Four Zoomers side, and well, Leo Style wants to keep pushing here, but it looks like his teammates are going to go after Roshan after all.
Yeah, and that's a really big nightmare for Four Zoomers. They try to dive everything onto Kataro. Kataro stands strong, has a really nice BKB timing, dodges out the Burrow Strike, and then, well, Gunner's in. He blinks in, expecting this Luna to just kind of die or feel his damage. I think he has the full MKB, and he certainly gets Kataro a little bit low, but it's where they don't know about the Satanic. It finishes just before the fight, and Lava were way more ready for that engagement than you were. And the timing from Leo Style. He gets the lasso after the Aphotic Shield comes down because I think Cat-U just forced out the Aphotic Shield for maybe a Fire Blast, maybe a 1 or 2 multicast, but because of that, he finds the lasso. Costabile gets a super late BKB off, and well, if Four Zoomers are not starting the fights, they're not getting that burst damage. They're not setting these heroes even a little bit low, and honestly, just completely perfect from Lava when it came to working out those spells. And now, this new nightmare that they have to deal with, there is a Aegis 23 level Luna pushing onto your high ground, and you don't really have what it takes to beat her, I think, at this current stage. Costabile, it's just simply not big enough. They need to do something to her, but that's where the tier 3 is dying so fast.
Who's going to do his best there, and it is a nice little play to get the Luna off the tower and get the creep wave sort of burned through, but this is just where Lava can maybe settle into that siege mode and really just clamp down and force Four Zoomers to, I mean, just sit in their base, wait it out. And if you're Four Zoomers, can you really afford to do that? I mean, your only alternative is maybe just smoking up and trying to push out of the base, which is the least subtle move in the world. I don't really think they can do it in a way where they won't be sort of telegraphing it at least a little bit, but the alternative is to just sit here and wait and watch creep waves come in onto you, and that's not fantastic either.
Yeah, really? But while the push kind of stalls out and Four Zoomers are just sitting in the base, I'm just watching Leo Style farm with the new Ag Shard, where now Batrider is a right-clicking hero because you're no longer disarmed in the lasso, and also stumbles upon 3 bounty runes. But there's a reason why we haven't seen the Batrider of the tournament yet, because it has been very appropriately banned out in that second phase in pretty much all of our series, because this hero is just a little bit nuts, just a little bit silly.
Yeah, he is starting to lean into it a little bit. Witchblade finished off, I think.
Full AC.
Is this actually an AC build? Yeah, that's...
He's got farm.
Brave New World. AC on Batrider. But, yeah, he's got it. And now that makes it even harder for Four Zoomers to push into this fight. You know, you look at Costabile, who, as we have mentioned now a couple of times, is starting to have some durability issues. He's going to have potentially even less armor to work with into these fights, so... Well, I don't really know. He doesn't have anything queued up right now after he finished that Scotty. What is the play to try and keep him alive? I don't think you can go for a fully just straight-up defensive item, but... Oh, hold on. That might not be relevant because Frank is going to make the push in. Leo Style gets the lasso down. Gunner is already dead. No buyback available now. Kataro is just going to march his way forward. Eclipse coming through. Z-Freak and Mu both dead. The rest of Four Zoomers have no choice but to fall back. Mu, at least, he had a buyback, so he will use it. The epicenter is still here. The problem is their base is just getting ransacked.
Yeah, I don't know if they can hold this at this point. Without the TA, they don't have that meld damage. Kataro just finished off with Scotty as well, and it's a way to go down, but I think this is probably just going to be the Ancient King cleaned up. Kosuke was trying.
Pushing in on the back line, but yeah, he's going to get taken down. The GG will be called, and Lava, well, take it a little maybe slow and steady there with their cores, but once they hit the power spike, they managed to take really only 1 or 2 major engagements that really shifted all of that momentum, but that's all they needed. Four Zoomers just weren't able to adjust on the fly.
Yeah, and sure, it's some great initiations coming in from Frank. I think catching so many Four Zoomers heroes off guard is just maybe a little bit of a hubris play. Maybe it's just them getting a little bit ahead of themselves when it comes to the initiation. There's so many times where I think Four Zoomers maybe weren't fully aware of the game that they were in, where they're blinking onto these targets with 2, 3 heroes, suddenly not killing the target. A BKB ends up allowing them to disengage, and then four Zoomers are just way too far overextended. And I think that's where their gameplay was almost playing against Husky in this Abaddon. It never felt like they had the unstoppable push coming forward. They were the persons causing the problems. And it's where Lava, when they get the tools finally, they have that multi initiation where they find the Abaddon, they get the early shield coming up because of the hoof stomp, and then Leo Style is free to go for a lasso. And I think that's where for Zoomers, I don't know if Costa Bile needs to get a blink as well, but they don't have that same free space. They have one blink burrow strike, they have Gunner following up with the damage, and then Costa Bile needs to find the follow up. But when Costa Bile needed to be the one to step up to be that next chain stun, unfortunately, he just wasn't able to be that hero. And that's also where, unfortunately, you're not getting a lot from your supports here. Husky is wholly defensive. Z-Freak is on a Bane who's not able to get a grip off because the Rubik comes out. And this is a Rubik that is picked before the Bane. I think the Bane idea, as much as I want to say it was cool, gave you a stacker for the TA and it was something to lane versus the Ogre, but I feel like we need to see Z-Freak on a better playmaker.
Yeah, that's the thing. We were talking about it plays well against the Ogre. It can stack up nicely. You have Nightmare and Fiend's Grip if you do find some sort of play, but the plays had to find Z-Freak, not the other way around. He did not have the means to really be that initiator, and that means that more and more pressure fell onto Mu, who honestly still did a fantastic job finding ins for that fight, but at a certain point you can't rely on him exclusively, especially on the other side with Lava. They had so much more lockdown, so much more durability to work with, and as we saw, every time four Zoomers did try to take that fight, Mu goes in, can't do much, Gunner blinks in, can do some nice damage, but then immediately dies to the right clicks of the Luna and the Batrider. So Lava really play that out well. I think they drafted in a very sort of confident manner, and then obviously the execution follows along.
Yeah, and the Batrider certainly didn't help, and that's when we talk about the Sand King. As much as it looked great for four Zoomers yesterday, it was always Mu dying in that series as well. You play so close to these incredibly dangerous cores, you're more or less signing yourself a one-way ticket, but in that series, the rest of the cores were just able to follow up. I think now coming into the second draft, four Zoomers could throw us a curveball here, and I almost feel like they should because this is not an off-center Lava. This is a Lava that's basically drafted what they've been drafting the entire tournament, and that I think that's where maybe four Zoomers try to strike in the next draft.
Yeah, we'll see what adjustments get made there, because four Zoomers now with their backs against the wall, down 0-1 in an elimination series, so we shall see if they can fight their way back into this one, or if Lava are going to be able to get that 2-0 sweep to advance to the grand final. So we will be stepping away here about 5 to 10 minutes now before the start of that Game 2 draft. So stick around. We'll be right back.